The wind whispered through the ruins as Arya pushed aside another tangle of purple vines. She had wandered farther than usual today, her collecting basket only half full of the silverware her mother needed for medicine. But something had been pulling at her, a feeling she couldn't quite name, drawing her deeper into the ancient stone structures that dotted the hills beyond the colony. Threshold Prime had been her home for all 16 years of her life. The human settlement sat in a valley surrounded by these mysterious ruins, remnants of whoever had lived here long before Earth sent its colonists across the stars. Most people ignored the old stones, too busy with crops and repairs and the endless work of survival on a frontier world. But Arya had always felt differently. The ruins called to her. She stepped through a crumbling archway and stopped. Before her, in a circular clearing overgrown with moss and flowering weeds, stood a dragon carved from stone. It was massive, at least 50 feet from its lowered head to the tip of its coiled tail. The sculpture was so detailed she could see individual scales, each one etched with tiny symbols she didn't recognize. Its wings were folded against its body, and its eyes were closed as if it had fallen asleep centuries ago and simply turned to stone. Arya approached slowly, her heart beating faster. The stone had a strange quality to it, darker than the ruins around it, almost black but with veins of deep blue running through it like frozen lightning. She reached out and touched one of its massive claws. The stone was smooth, worn by time, but somehow it felt different from ordinary rock. Warmer, maybe, though that seemed impossible. "Hello," she whispered, feeling foolish for talking to the statue. The dragon, of course, said nothing. But Arya couldn't shake the sensation that it was listening somehow, that behind those closed stone eyelids something ancient was dreaming. She sat down on a fallen pillar near the dragon's head and pulled out the piece of bread she'd saved from breakfast. As she ate, she found herself humming an old song her grandmother had taught her before she died. It was in Mandarin, one of Earth's old languages, about mountains and rivers and home. Her grandmother used to say music was humanity's first language, the one that needed no translation. The humming turned to singing, soft at first, then stronger. Her voice echoed off the ancient stones, and for a moment Arya felt less alone. The colony had been struggling lately. Equipment kept breaking down. The crops weren't growing as well as they should, and it had been 2 years since they'd heard anything from Earth. The relay station that connected them to the rest of human space had gone silent, and no one knew why. People were scared, though they tried not to show it. But here, singing to a stone dragon in forgotten ruins, Arya felt something like peace. She returned the next day, and the day after that. It became a routine, something she looked forward to during the long hours of chores and schoolwork. She would gather what her mother needed, then spend an hour at the clearing, singing to the dragon. Sometimes old Earth songs, sometimes newer colony ballads, sometimes just melodies she made up on the spot. 3 months passed this way. The colony's troubles deepened. A blight hit the wheat fields. The main water processor broke down and took 2 weeks to fix. Arya's father came home each evening looking more tired, more worried. But still she went to ruins. Still she sang. She started to notice small things. The way dust seemed to settle differently on the dragon, as if something was breathing it away. The way the moss near its feet grew thicker, greener. And most strange of all, the stone seemed warmer each time she touched it, though that had to be her imagination. One afternoon, as she finished a song about stars and sailing ships, Arya could have sworn she saw the faintest line of light appear along the dragon's closed eye. Just for a second, like a crack in dark glass with something glowing behind it. She blinked, and it was gone. "Am I going crazy?" she asked the statue. The dragon remained still and silent, just as it had for probably thousands of years. But Arya felt something shift in the air around her, something that made the hair on her arms stand up. Not frightening exactly, but powerful. Old. Aware. She stood and placed both hands on the dragon's stone snout. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said quietly. "But if you can, I'll keep singing. I'll keep coming back." The stone was definitely warm now. She was sure of it. The cracks of light in the dragon's eyes grew stronger each day. Arya watched them spread like tiny rivers of gold across the stone eyelids, pulsing faintly in rhythm with her songs. She told her best friend Marcus about it, but he just laughed and said she was spending too much time in the sun. Her mother worried she was neglecting her studies. Her father said the ruins were dangerous and she should stay closer to home. But Arya couldn't stop going. Something important was happening. She could feel it deep in her bones. Then the screech came. It happened on a Tuesday evening, just as the colony was sitting down to dinner. The warning siren screamed across the valley, a sound Arya had only heard during drills. Her father jumped up from the table, grabbing his rifle from the wall. Through the window, Arya could see the perimeter lights flashing red. "Stay inside," her mother ordered, pulling Arya's younger brother close. "Lock the doors." But Arya could hear the screaming, the sound of energy weapons firing, and something else, something that made her blood run cold. A chittering, clicking noise, like 1,000 insects, but deeper, angrier. The screech hadn't attacked in decades. The colony had almost forgotten they existed. Her father ran out with the other defenders. Arya watched from the window as creatures poured out of the forest. Things that looked wrong, like nature had been twisted and corrupted. They moved on too many legs, their bodies covered in black chitin that seemed to absorb light. Where they touched the ground, plants withered and died. The colony's weapons fired again and again, but there were so many of them. Arya didn't think. She just ran. "Arya, no!" her mother screamed, but Arya was already out the back door, sprinting toward the ruins. She didn't know what she was doing or why, only that she needed to reach the dragon. Her legs burned as she climbed the hill, the sounds of battle growing louder behind her. She could hear the screech breaking through the outer defenses. She burst into the clearing, gasping for breath. The dragon stood as it always had, silent and still, but the light in its eyes was brighter now, definitely visible even in the fading daylight. "Please," Arya choked out, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I don't know if you're real or if I'm crazy, but people are dying. My father is down there. Everyone I love is down there. If you can hear me, if any of this means anything, please help us." She began to sing, not any particular song, just pouring everything she felt into her voice. Fear and hope and desperation all mixed together. She sang like her life depended on it, like the whole colony depended on it, because maybe they did. The dragon's eyes opened. Not slowly, not gradually. One moment they were stone, and the next they were burning with ancient amber light that flooded the clearing like a sunrise. Arya stumbled backward as cracks spread across the dragon's entire body, not breaking it but revealing something beneath. The black stone fell away in chunks, and underneath were scales, real scales that gleamed blue and silver in the dying light. The dragon moved. Its head lifted. Its wings unfurled with sound like thunder, and it looked directly at Arya with eyes that held the weight of ages. A voice filled her mind. Not words exactly, but meaning that bypassed language entirely. It felt like mountains grinding together, like the deep places of the earth given speech. Worthy voice. Finally, the long sleep ends. "You're real," Arya whispered, her legs shaking so badly she could barely stand. "I am Calethorn, guardian, defender. I was placed here to protect against the corruption. Your song has awakened me." Another explosion from the colony, louder this time. Calethorns had swung toward the sound, and something like anger flashed in those ancient eyes. "The screech, they have returned. They seek to destroy me before I reach full strength. Can you help us?" Arya asked. "Can you save them?" The dragon spread its wings fully, and despite its massive size, it moved with impossible grace. "I am weak from the long darkness, but I will do what I can. Your people shelter beneath my watch. This I remember. This I honor." Calethorn launched into the sky with a single powerful thrust. Stone and scale and ancient fury made real. Arya watched it dive toward the colony, toward the swarm of screech that threatened to overwhelm her home. It opened its mouth, and instead of fire, light poured out, pure and cleansing, turning the corrupted creatures to ash. She had sung beside a stone dragon, and it had opened its eyes. Now everything would change. The screech fled before Calethorn's light, scattering back into the forest like shadows before the sun. The dragon landed in the colony square with a tremor that shook the ground, its massive form towering over the buildings. Colonists emerged from their shelters, weapons raised, staring in disbelief at the creature that had just saved their lives. Arya ran down the hill, pushing through the crowd until she found her father. He was bleeding from a cut on his arm, but alive. Her mother and brother were safe too, but 12 others hadn't been so lucky. Their bodies lay covered in blankets near the medical center. Governor Reeves, the colony's leader, approached Cale Thorne with careful steps. "What are you?" he called out, his voice shaking only slightly. The dragon turned its great head toward him, and Arya felt Cale Thorne's voice in her mind again. She realized with a start that she could choose to share it, to let others hear. She spoke aloud what the dragon was saying. "I am a guardian, left here long ago by a race called the Architects. They traveled the stars, placing protectors on worlds where younger species might one day live. I was meant to defend against the Screeth, against the corruption that spreads between stars." "It talks through the girl," someone muttered. "This is wrong. Dangerous." Governor Reeves held up his hand for silence. "You saved us tonight. For that, we're grateful. But we need to understand what's happening." Over the next days, an uneasy peace settled over the colony. Cale Thorne remained in the square, too large to fit anywhere else. Some people brought offerings of food, which the dragon politely refused, explaining it drew energy from the planet's magnetic field and from Arya's songs. Others kept their distance, fear written plain on their faces. Arya spent hours with Cale Thorne learning. When she touched the dragon's scales and sang softly, memories flooded into her mind. She saw the Architects, beings of pure energy who had taken physical form to build and protect. She saw a galaxy full of young civilizations, all needing help to survive the dangerous universe. She saw the Screeth as they once were, peaceful traders, before something called a hollow found them. "What is the hollow?" she asked one evening, sitting cross-legged near Cale Thorne's foreleg. "A wound between dimensions, a place where reality breaks down and emptiness seeps through. It corrupts everything it touches, turning life into servants of entropy and decay. The Screeth were its first victims in this region of space. They spread the corruption now, unable to stop themselves. Can they be saved? Perhaps, if the breach is sealed. But that would take power I no longer have." Cale Thorne's eyes dimmed slightly. "I am still weak, young singer. The long sleep took much from me. I need time to recover, and I need your songs to help me heal." Arya established a routine, singing to Cale Thorne 3 times each day. With each session, the dragon grew stronger, its scales brighter, its movements more fluid. But tensions in the colony grew too. A faction led by Security Chief Hawthorne argued that Cale Thorne was too dangerous, too unknown. They wanted it destroyed before it could turn on them. "It's an alien weapon we don't understand," Hawthorne said at a town meeting. "It could be lying to us, using the girl to manipulate us." "It saved our lives," Arya's father countered. "My daughter isn't being controlled. I know my own child." The debate raged, but became irrelevant when the sensors detected something new. Marcus, who worked in the communications center, brought the data to Arya late one night. His face was pale. "There's a fleet coming," he said quietly. "Screeth ships, dozens of them. They'll be here in 5 days." Arya ran to Cale Thorne, fear clutching her heart. "A fleet is coming. Can you stop them?" The dragon was silent for a long moment. When it spoke, Arya heard something she hadn't before: uncertainty. "At full strength, perhaps I could drive them away. But I am only at partial power. And, young singer, there is something worse. My sensors detect a spatial anomaly forming at the edge of your system. The Hollow is trying to break through here, to create a permanent gateway. That is why the Screeth come in such numbers. They are drawn to it, compelled to protect it. What happens if the Hollow opens? This world dies. Everything dies. The corruption will spread across this entire sector of space, consuming world after world until nothing remains but emptiness." Arya looked at the dragon, then back toward the colony where families slept, unaware of the doom approaching. "Then we need a plan, and we need everyone to work together, whether they trust you or not." Cale Thorne's eyes blazed with renewed determination. "Yes, It is time for your people to show what humanity can do when survival demands everything. The emergency meeting filled the community hall to capacity. Every colonist who could walk was there. Faces grim as Governor Reeves displayed the sensor data on the main screen. The Screeth fleet showed as red dots, growing closer with each hour. Behind them, at the system's edge, a dark smudge marked where space itself was tearing open. "We have 3 choices," Reeves said, his voice heavy. "We can evacuate on our cargo ships and hope we make it to the nearest colony. We can fight with what we have and likely die. Or we can trust the dragon and try something that might be completely insane." Arya stood up, her legs trembling but her voice steady. "Kalethorn says there are 6 more Guardian statues scattered across the ruins in this region. They're dormant, like it was. If we can wake them all, we might have a chance. Together, they were designed to seal hollow breaches." "And how exactly do we wake up giant alien war machines?" Hawthorne asked, his tone sharp with skepticism. "The same way I woke Kalethorn. With singing. With resonance." Arya looked around the room at the doubtful faces. "I know it sounds crazy, but music was humanity's first language. Maybe it's the universe's language too. The architects built their technology to respond to certain frequencies, to harmony and intention. It's not magic. It's science we don't fully understand yet." Marcus stepped forward with a tablet. "I've been working with Kalethorn, analyzing the awakening process. The dragon is right. The statues respond to specific harmonic patterns. Aria's voice creates them naturally, but we can teach others. We'd need at least 12 singers, 2 per statue, maintaining the resonance for several hours." "This is insane," someone shouted. "We should leave while we can." Aria's father stood. "Leave to where? Our ships are slow. That fleet would catch us in days. And even if we escaped, we'd be abandoning our home, everything we've built. I say we fight." "I agree," said Dr. Okonkwo, the colony's chief engineer. "And I have an idea. Kalethorn has given us access to Guardian technology, architectural patterns we can scan and replicate. If we can integrate their energy matrices with our defense platforms, we might be able to create weapons that actually hurt the Screeth. It would take all of us working around the clock, but it's possible." The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to flee. Others wanted to destroy Kalethorn and hoped the Screeth would pass them by. But slowly, gradually, a consensus formed. They would stay. They would fight. They would adapt and overcome, because that's what humans did best. The next 3 days were a blur of desperate activity. Arya led a team into the ruins, mapping the locations of the sleeping Guardians. Each was different. One looked like a great eagle with wings of crystal, another like a serpent coiled around an ancient tower, a third like a bear made of living metal. All were magnificent. All were silent. She gathered volunteers for the singing teams, teaching them the harmonics Kalethorn had shown her. Old songs from Earth worked best, melodies that had survived centuries because they touched something fundamental in human hearts. Lullabies and work songs, hymns and folk ballads. Mrs. Patel taught them Sanskrit chants. Old Manchin shared mining songs from his grandfather. They wove it all together into something new. Meanwhile, the engineers worked miracles. They stripped every defense platform, every piece of advanced technology they had, and rebuilt it using principles from Kalethorn systems. The dragon itself provided a crystalline matrix grown from its own scales, a gift that would let human weapons channel the same cleansing light it produced. On the 4th day, Arya stood before the eagle-like guardian with a young teacher named Sarah beside her. 5 other teams were positioned at their own statues across the region, connected by radio. At the colony, every remaining colonist manned the new defenses or prepared for medical emergencies. All teams ready. Marcus's voice crackled over the radio. "The fleet will be in weapons range in 6 hours. It's now or never." Arya took a deep breath and began to sing. Sarah joined her, their voices blending in a harmony they'd practiced until their throats were raw. Around the region, other teams did the same, 12 voices lifting ancient songs into the alien sky. The eagle's eyes flickered. A crack appeared in the crystal of its wing. "Keep singing." Kalethorn's voice echoed in Arya's mind, and she knew all the singers heard it too. "Show them what humanity can do. Show them the strength in your voices, the courage in your hearts. Wake the Guardians, and we will face the darkness together." The crystal wing began to glow brighter and brighter as all across Threshold Prime, stone began to crack and ancient defenders stirred from their long sleep. The Guardians rose like legends coming to life. The crystal eagle spread wings that caught the sunlight and shattered it into rainbows. The metal bear stood on its hind legs and roared a sound like thunder. The serpent uncoiled from its tower, scales of polished obsidian gleaming. 3 more emerged from distant ruins. A wolf made of flowing water, a tiger striped with living fire, and a turtle whose shell was carved with star maps. They converged on the colony as the Scree fleet entered the atmosphere, darkening the sky like a swarm of locusts. Arya stood in the square with the other singers, their voices never stopping, maintaining the resonance that kept the Guardians at full power. Her throat burned and her legs shook with exhaustion, but she sang on. Calethorn took position at the center, the other Guardians forming a circle around the colony. "Humanity!" The dragon's voice echoed in every mind. "Today you fight alongside the ancient defenders. Your courage honors the memory of the architects. Whatever happens, you have proven yourselves worthy." The battle began. Screeth ships descended like falling stars, weapons blazing. But the colony's new defenses met them with beams of pure light, the same cleansing energy the Guardians wielded. Ships exploded in midair, their corrupted hulls unable to withstand the purifying force. Human gunners cheered as their impossible weapons tore through enemies that had seemed invincible days before. The Guardians launched themselves at the larger vessels. The crystal eagle's wings cut through Screeth armor like paper. The metal bear swatted ships from the sky. The water wolf flowed around enemy fire, reforming and striking again. Humanity and ancient defenders fought as one, and the Screeth began to fall back. But then the hollow breach opened. Space tore apart above the colony, a wound in reality that pulsed with sickening energy. Darkness poured out, not the darkness of night, but something worse, something that hurt to look at. The Screeth ships went into a frenzy, their attacks becoming suicidal as they tried to protect the breach. "It's here," Calethorn called out. "We must seal it now or all is lost." The 7 Guardians rose into the sky, forming a circle around the breach. They began to glow, their bodies becoming channels for immense power drawn from the planet's core, from the stars above, from the very fabric of space itself. But Arya could feel through her connection with Calethorn that it wasn't enough. The hollow was too strong, too hungry. "We need more resonance," she gasped, her voice nearly gone. "More harmony." Marcus understood immediately. He opened all the radio channels. "Everyone listen. We need you to sing. All of you, everyone in the colony. It doesn't matter if you think you can't sing. Just join your voices with ours. Now!" For a moment, nothing happened. Then Arya heard it, a single voice over the radio, rough and untrained. Her father, singing an old work song. Her mother joined in. Then her brother, Dr. Okonkwo, began a Nigerian praise song. Mrs. Patel chanted in Sanskrit. Old Man Chin sang in Mandarin. The entire colony became a choir, hundreds of voices in dozens of languages, all singing together. The harmony was messy and imperfect and utterly human, and it was beautiful. The resonance surged. The Guardians blazed like 7 suns, their combined power forming a net of light that wrapped around the breach. Slowly, impossibly, the tear in space began to close. The Screeth ships exploded or fled, their connection to the hollow severing. The darkness screamed silently as it was forced back into whatever dimension it came from. Arya felt Calethorn's determination, and beneath it, sadness. This will take everything we have, young singer, to seal the breach completely. We must give all our power. We will return to stone, perhaps forever, but the colony will be safe. Your people will be safe. Tears streamed down Arya's face as she sang, pouring every bit of love and gratitude into her voice. Around her, the other singers wept too, but none of them stopped. They sang for their families, for their home, for the ancient offenders who were sacrificing everything to save them. The breach sealed with a flash of light that lit up the whole planet. The Guardians fell, no longer flying, but dropping like the statues they had been. They landed in the hills around the colony, becoming stone once more. But their eyes remained open, just slightly, still glowing faintly with amber light. The singing faded. The battle was over. Threshold Prime had survived. Arya collapsed, her voice gone, her body exhausted, but she smiled through her tears. Around her, colonists emerged from their shelters, looking up at a sky that was clear and blue and free of corruption. They had faced the darkness, human and guardian together, and they had won.